Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madonna Roberts, and today I will be presenting my cultural immersion experience on Muslim Americans. The purpose of this project was to move beyond simply reading about another culture and instead experience it through research, community interactions, and personal reflection. As future counselors, we will work with individuals from many different cultural and religious backgrounds. This experience challenged me to become more culturally aware, recognize my own assumptions, and better understand how faith, family, and cultural influence the counseling relationship. Okay, now I chose Muslim Americans because this was a population I honestly knew very little about. Now, before beginning this project, most of what I knew came from the media or things I had heard from other people. I realized that if I wanted to become an effective school counselor, I needed to move beyond assumptions and learn directly from the people themselves. This experience reminded me that every client has a unique story, and we cannot assume that everyone within a culture or religious group has the same beliefs or experiences. Okay, so the four key research findings. Now, through my research, I learned that four important things. First, Islam is a religion, not a race. Muslim Americans come from many different countries, ethnic backgrounds, and cultures. Second, faith is often at the center of community, are extremely important within many Muslim households. Third, family and communities are extremely important within many Muslim households. And finally, I learned that Muslim Americans are very diverse. Although they share a common faith, their individual experiences, traditions, and perspectives are not all the same. This reminded me that counselors should never stereotype clients, but instead seek to understand each person's unique experiences. Okay, so historical challenges. Now, one of the most eye-opening parts of my research involved learning about the challenges many Muslim Americans continue to face. Following the events of September 11th, many experienced increased discrimination, stereotypes, and Islamophobia. Some reported feeling judged because their appearance, clothing, or religious practices. Women who wear the hijab often experience additional discrimination. These experiences can contribute to anxiety, depression, social isolation, and mistrust of others. As counselors, we must recognize that these experiences may influence how comfortable someone feels seeking counselor services or trusting helping professionals. Strengths and resilience. Although my research discussed discrimination, I also wanted to focus on the strengths within the Muslim American community. One of the greatest strengths I observed was the importance of faith. Many individuals rely on prayer, their relationship with God, and support from their faith community during difficult times. Family support is another major strength. Education, services to others, generosities, and perseverance were also themes that appeared throughout my research. As a counselor, it is just as important to recognize our clients' strengths as it is to understand the challenges that they face. Okay, mosque visit. Now, my first cultural immersion experience gave me the opportunity to learn more about Islamic beliefs and practices in a respectful environment. What stood out to me the most was the hospitality shown by members of the community. They were welcoming, they were very patient and willing to answer questions without making anyone feel uncomfortable. I realized that many of the assumptions people make about Muslims simply come from a lack of knowledge. Now, this experience helped replace stereotypes with understanding and reminded me that genuine conversations are one of the best ways to reduce bias. All right, so community, this is the event 2. All right, now during my second emerging experience, I learned even more about how important a community is within the Muslim faith. I noticed that the emphasis placed on serving others, supporting families, and maintaining strong relationships. I also learned that while there are shared beliefs, every Muslim person's story is different. That reinforced an important counseling principle. We should never assume we know someone's experience based solely on their religion, culture, or appearance. Instead, we should approach every client with curiosity, empathy, and respect. Okay, so this is the interview summary: faith, family, discrimination, mental health, and counseling. Now, one of the most meaningful parts of this project was interviewing someone from the Muslim community. During the interview, I learned that faith provides strength and during difficult times and help guide everyday decisions. The interview also highlighted the importance of family support and emotional impact that understood as individuals rather than judged by stereotypes. Now, as a future counselor, this reminded me that listening is one of the most important skills we can develop. Clients want to know that they are heard, respected, and accepted without judgment. Three biggest lessons. Don't assume, listen first. Every client is unique. All right, so this cultural immersion experience taught me 3 important lessons that I will carry into my counseling career. Now, first, I learned that never to make assumptions about someone based on their religion, culture, or appearance. Every person has a unique story that deserves to be heard. Second, I learned that listening is more important than speaking. Now, sometimes the best thing we can do as counselors is to create a safe space where clients feel comfortable sharing their experiences. And finally, I learned that cultural competence is not about becoming an expert on every culture. Instead, it is about remaining humble, continuing to learn, and treating every client with dignity and respect. Okay. Module 8, integration. God's image, humility, compassion, advocacy. Bohecker, 2025. Now, one of the most meaningful lessons from this week's lecture was the importance of respecting. Okay, I'm moving fast. This week's reading helped me to connect my cultural immersion experience to my future role as a counselor. Now, one of the biggest ideas from Kingdom Over Culture is that our identity in Christ should shape how we see and treat other people. Every person is created in the image of God and deserve love, dignity, and respect regardless of their culture or religion. Jones Smith also emphasized the importance of cultural humility and counselor self-awareness. Before we can effectively help others, we must first recognize our own biases and be willing to learn from our clients. Now, chapter 16 reinforced that spirituality can be an important source of strength and should be discussed ethically and respectfully when it is important to the client. Okay, religious diversity. Respect all beliefs. Spirituality matters. Avoid assumptions. Practice ethical integration. Garrison lecture. Okay, so one of the most meaningful lessons from this week's lectures was the importance of respecting religious diversity. Religion is often a central part of a person's identity and influence how they cope with stress, make decisions, and understand the world around them. As counselors, we should never assume that a client's beliefs are the same as others. Instead, we should respectfully ask questions, listen without judgment, and recognize that spirituality can be a valuable strength in the counseling process. My immersion experience helped me appreciate how important faith is within the Muslim community and reminded me that understanding a client's worldview is essential for effective counseling. Christian worldview. James 2:1. Believers must not show favoritism. Now, as a Christian, my faith strongly influences how I view counseling. James 2:1 reminds believers not to show favoritism. And I believe this applies directly to our work as counselors. Now, every person deserves to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. My goal is to never to force my beliefs on someone else, but to demonstrate Christ's love through empathy, kindness, and genuine care. This cultural immersion experience reminded me that loving our neighbors means seeking to understand them before trying to help them. Okay, counseling application. Now, as a future counselor, I will respect religious beliefs, build trust, practice cultural humility, include family when appropriate, advocate for marginalized students, continue multicultural learning. Okay, so this experience has changed how I will approach counseling as a future school counselor. I want every student to feel safe, respected, and understood. I will take time to learn about each student's cultural background, religious beliefs, and family values instead of making assumptions. I will also work to build trusting relationships with families, advocate for students who experience discrimination, and continue learning about cultures that are different from my own. I believe culturally responsive counseling helps students feel valued and increases effectiveness of the counseling relationship. Okay, and personal reflection. Now, this experience taught me um, I had assumptions I didn't recognize. Listening is more important than knowing. Faith is often a source of resilience, and cultural competence requires lifelong learning. Now, looking back on this project, I realized that I had more to learn than I originally thought. Now, before beginning this experience, I had limited knowledge of the Islam and Muslim culture. Through my research, community experiences, and interview, I gained a much greater appreciation for the diversity within the Muslim community. I also realized that effective counseling begins with humility. No matter how much we study, our clients remain the experts on their own lives. My responsibility is to listen, to learn, and to support them in ways that respect their values and experience. Conclusion. Every client deserves dignity. Every story matters. Culture should never become a barrier. And effective counselors lead with humility and compassion. In closing, this cultural immersion experience has been one of the most valuable assignments I've completed in this program. It challenged me to examine my own assumptions, increase my cultural awareness, and better understand the importance of religious diversity in counseling. It also reminded me that every person deserves to be heard, respected, and treated with compassion. Now, as I continue my journey toward becoming a school counselor, I will carry these lessons with me and remain committed to providing ethical, culturally responsive, and Christ centered care to every student and family I serve. I thank you so much for tuning in. You have a great day.